What's up, guys? So we continue with Dragon Age, Inquisition, Pax Prime information. I'm doing a video for each panel that was held on Dragon Age Inquisition at Pax Prime, except for this one because I'm putting two panels in this one because the notes that I got were kind of short. So I'm making it two panels in one video. So let's just start DAIing. Make it trend! DAIing! So they talked about a lot of different ways of making your mark in Dragon Age Inquisition, and they all sound so awesome and just new to Dragon Age, but it just feels like it fits so well with that world. I'm just so glad and so grateful that they're able to do this now, you know? And that's what excites me the most about gaming nowadays, because the more technology improves, the more developers could put into their games. With the Frostbite 3 engine, the new engine that they're using, it seems like they're having so much more opportunities, so much more, it's like a bunch of doors were just opened. Dragon Age was always a very limited experience. It had everything when it came to story and characters. At least it did for me. Like, I fell in love with it. But when it came to the world, it was just so... You knew it was this huge world. I mean, us Dragon Age fans, we know how big it is. But the games, you always felt that limitation. And, you know, you always felt that, oh man, I wish I could go and like just explore, because you know it's out there. But you just couldn't, and now we can. So pretty much what they're doing with Dragon Age Inquisition is just, they're making it about discovery, and they're tying that directly to a rewarding story, and you know, the character development that we've always loved in the Dragon Age series. As you explore, the more you explore, the stronger your Inquisition becomes. So not only is your character leveling up, but the Inquisition is also, which is a very interesting concept to me. The thing with the agents is the way that you're going to affect that system. What I know so far, how they're going to do it, I don't know the specifics of it, but I do know that they're going to be, you're going to see the map, and there are going to be areas that have, like, say, I don't know, some kind of mission where you could get something out of it. Like, you could get, I don't know, something out of it where you're like, you know what, I want to do that mission because I want to get that. You could send agents, but it says this will require like 20 agents or something like that. So you would send 20 agents over there and they would do the mission for you. I don't know much more, but that's kind of how it's going to work. I was like dead set that the agents thing was going to be tied to the multiplayer. But I mean, I'm not saying that Dragon Age Inquisition is confirmed that it's going to have a multiplayer, because they haven't said that yet. But I think it's a huge possibility, especially with what they have said in the past and all this. So I'm getting into the mindset that Dragon Age Inquisition is going to have multiplayer. I used to think that the agents thing was going to be tied to the multiplayer. I've heard the Dragon Age team saying that the Mass Effect 3 did it really well, but I've also heard them talking about more of a Baldur's Gate style of multiplayer, which I think would be a lot better. But if they implement anything from Mass Effect 3, it was kind of that whole agents thing, like, you know, the N7 and the soldiers, and how they would help, how they were pretty much helping out in different areas while Shepard was doing his thing, and getting you the galactic readiness faster or whatever, getting it stronger. That's how I was imagining it, but I'm almost thinking, like, now I'm thinking that that agents thing is more of a single player thing. And the multiplayer really might be that you create a character, and you create, like, you have a party. If they make it anything like Baldur's Gate, it's going to be you with a party of people, a group, like a Dragon Age group, and you're going to go off and do stuff. Like, you're going to go off and do missions. If they have their own storyline for the multiplayer, I think that's going to be really cool. I think they could really do a good job with the multiplayer, because they could make it kind of like an RPG, almost like an MMO, I guess, but not that big. Not like GTA Online or anything like that. I think they should keep it small scale. I think they should have the multiplayer have its own storyline. I think the characters should be separate from the single player. I think you should create your own character and you form a party with different people and you go off and do these quests or whatever. And it somehow applies to the single player because sometimes when they keep it completely separate, it's easy to do that with shooters, to keep it completely separate. But with an RPG, I think they do have to add some kind of appeal to the multiplayer. It should have some kind of effect, like you get specific items or something like that. You get some rare items if you do it or something, like, you know, kind of correlate it somehow like that. But they definitely should not make it mandatory, where it's like you won't get, you know, you won't get the best ending if you don't play the multiplayer. They should not do that. Again, I have to clarify, you guys, please understand that I'm not saying that Dragon Age Inquisition has multiplayer. I'm not saying that they confirmed this because they haven't. They were talking about the possibilities of a multiplayer a while back, like, I mean, like a year ago, in the previous packs. So this is just me pondering whether there would, if there would be a multiplayer, how you would make that that apply and how that would be part of making your mark on the world. So that's just my 2 cents in case it is implemented. There's always a possibility that they just will skip the multiplayer, but I have a strong feeling that they are going to try to implement it somehow. Bioware has already been working on this game for a few years now, and they have already mentioned the multiplayer. So I think if they do implement it, they have already been working on it for quite a few years, along with the single player. It shouldn't be something that should surprise us if they do end up confirming it or not. So there's that whole thing of making your Inquisition stronger, making it whatever you want it to be, like however you pretty much define it. They did say that there's no conquering. Like you can't go around and conquer areas and just be like this like iron fist, like Ugh! Some people were asking about user pins. What that means is on the map, if you could just like pin areas where, let's say you spotted something where you're like, oh my god, there's a really cool cave there. Let's say you're really low level and you're like, there's no way I could go there right now. I'm probably gonna get obliterated. I'll come back later. Could you pin it? They said that you are going to be able to put pins on areas, but they didn't go into too much detail on that, so I don't know exactly how many pins you could put. I don't know if there's a limit or what. And again, this has been said in the past, there will be no origin stories, so you will be able to choose your race, but you can't choose your origin. They did say that there is some kind of degree of choice when it came to your character's background, but they're not giving you full freedom as to say, oh, I want to be from Ferelden and I want to be from Orlais. That would take so much effort and time. That voice actor would have to do so many different voices for an Orlesian, for a Ferelden, for for different areas, for people, for someone that's from Navarra, they all have different accents, or Antiva. They're not going that far when it comes to the choice aspect. I think what they're gonna do is, if you choose a human, you're probably going to be from Ferelden, because if you listened to the voice of the Inquisitor in the PAX stuff that they showed, he sounded like he was from Ferelden. Definitely not Orlais. So either he was born and raised in Ferelden, or maybe he was born in Orlais and raised in Ferelden. So I think each race is going to have a set background, but they did say that if you choose the only side like fork is going to be a mage. So kind of like they did it with Origins, where, you know, it was a Dalish elf or a city elf or a mage. Kind of like that, where, you know, you could choose. That they're gonna kind of change the profile blurb a little bit for mages, just because it's going to have a different impact. The story, especially with mages are gonna have a bigger, I think, not only role but effect, like everything that's going on in Dragon Age Inquisition with the Fade and all that. And I mean, if you've read Asunder and if you've seen the anime, and even after the end of Dragon Age 2, during the whole thing of Dragon Age 2, the issue were mages. It's always been mages, so they've kind of always focused on that theme, and I've always loved that, how they incorporated that, because it's so relatable. Like, even though there aren't any mages in the real world, Or are there? They still found that a way to make that concept of the Templars, of this kind of like this big brother that is kind of controlling the smaller folk, the mages. Their decisions don't matter, their opinions don't matter because they're dangerous. But at the same time, they're fighting for that. They're fighting for equality. They're fighting for that. They're like, you know what? I know we're dangerous, but we could keep it in control. Like, you don't have to keep us locked up in a tower. We shouldn't be treated like prisoners. At the same time, it's like, well, they do kind of have to be watched over. But then you think, but yeah, but not like that. Like, not to that extreme. I just love that concept. They did keep saying, though, that it's not so much like choosing an origin like it was with Origins, and it's not so much about playing a specific character in Dragon Age 2, which the reasons they did that in both games, they had reasons for doing that. Some people say that, you know, oh, they totally dumbed down Dragon Age 2. It's like, no, they didn't. Like, it was a mistake that they took out the Origins. No, it wasn't. It was, they were doing that for a reason. They had to do that. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't be able to get to the place that they are right now, because they had to focus on that specific thing in that specific time in Dragon Age 2 Dragon Age 2 was pretty much leading up to Dragon Age Inquisition, to the next Dragon Age. And if you think about it, Dragon Age 2 is more important for Dragon Age Inquisition than Dragon Age Origins. But it was done on purpose. Now that you know the world, which was introduced in Dragon Age Origins, now that you know all the races that were introduced in Dragon Age Origins, which was the reason why they did the Origins, so that you could know more about each race. This was the introduction to Dragon Age. They had to do this. And then in Dragon Age 2, they were introducing you to a specific story, to a specific thing that was going on, to this conflict, not a world, because they had already done that in Dragon Age Origins. And they didn't want that story or that time period or that place, all of that was the focus of Dragon Age 2. They didn't want that to be about whether, like, let's say they let you choose to be an elf. It would be more about your position in that story by being an elf. Like, people would be like, oh, he's an elf, or blah blah blah, or she's an elf, or you would have different things affecting the story, where it's like, that's not what the story is about. So let's get rid of that. If you were dwarf, same thing, you would have dwarf issues in that story. So they wanted to keep it neutral, which the human has always been like this neutral ground, not only in the place that you hold in the world, but also even stats. They're almost always this neutral ground. So that's what they wanted to do, put a neutral character, a somewhat neutral character, neutral race, in a story that they wanted to talk about, because they wanted it to be about the story, not so much how the character affected the story. Look at the conflict, understand the conflict, that kind of stuff. So people kind of were pissed off that they didn't have too much to say, like their Hawk didn't really make a change in things, but it's because they needed to tell this story. I mean, it directly ties to it, and there's no confusion there. I mean, we know exactly the severity and the intensity of what's going on with that story. So if they had done it a different way, if they had given you more choice, there would have been different options. There would have been different occurrences, and that's not what they were going for. They were going for telling a story, which is why they made Varric telling the story, so that you wouldn't really be able to change it, because they're like, no, we can't change it. This is what's going on. Your choice is coming further on, which is why they ended it with a cliffhanger. People are like, oh my god, I can't believe they ended it with a cliffhanger. But it was totally setting it up for the next Dragon Age. So now with Dragon Age Inquisition, it's your turn to shine. You are now given, you know the world, you know the races, you know the story. Now it's your time to make your mark. How are you going to react to what's going on in the world? You're actually rising up a group that had fallen in the past, the Inquisition. So you're going to make it stronger. You're going to make it something new, something different. How are you going to bring calm to the chaos? So with choosing your character, they were really making it clear that instead of you choosing, A, B, or C, oh, I want this origin, or I want this pre-made profile. No. You choose your guy, and they're pretty much, they have a little blurb of their background and all that, and their name and all this and that, but they are pretty much a blank slate. That's where you make your mark. You make your mark on everything you touch. So everything that has to do with their background, you're gonna be adding to it as the story goes on. So with the choices that you're given in dialogues or whatever, you're gonna be forming your background. You're gonna be forming your personality, the personality of that character. So that character is gonna be it's going to be very much yours. It's not going to be like in Origins, where in Origins, it's like you already had a past. And when you meet people, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that person. That's my brother or whatever, because that's what I saw in the beginning. The background is not a choice. It's forming it throughout the whole game, which I find so much more intriguing than just choosing an origin. On the topic of races, they did mention that there would be no dwarf mages. I thought that maybe that would be a possibility, but no, there are no dwarf mages, unfortunately. And for those of you who are like, well, dwarves can't be mages anyway, hello. They have been hinting at the possibility of dwarves maybe evolving somehow where they could use magic. I mean, they hinted at it in Dragon Age Origins, and they hinted at it stronger in Dragon Age 2 with Sandal. That's why people are even talking about dwarven mages. Not because they just want them, but because it has been like a topic, this like hidden topic in Dragon Age, where you're just like, what is going on here? This was just that you couldn't choose to be a mage if you chose a dwarf. So whether they're going to talk about that in the game, about dwarves actually being capable of using magic, that I don't know. That's still up in the air. But you won't be able to choose to be a dwarf mage. The decisions from Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 will apply and affect your game in Dragon Age Inquisition, but that's all going to be controlled by the Dragon Age Keep, which I will be making a video specifically on the Dragon Age Keep, because I have gotten a lot of questions regarding that. But I will mention a little bit about the Dragon Age Keep here. The Dragon Age Keep is going to be, I think you're going to be able to have it on your iOS system, but it's pretty much like a website that you go to. It's going to be more than just a questionnaire, because they're pretty much going to be asking you questions about big decisions from Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. And even little ones. They said that they might even have more decisions, more questions on the Dragon Age Keep than will even be addressed in Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a good thing, because it shows that they're kind of they're closing all doors, you know, keeping it safe, where it's like, well, maybe we might touch upon this in Dragon Age Inquisition, let's just go for it. Now, I don't know if you guys remember with Mass Effect, when it went to the PS3, they did this comic that was called the Genesis comic, and I believe it was for Mass Effect 2, because Mass Effect 1 hadn't gone to the PS3 or something, and they were bringing out Mass Effect 2 for the PS3. Not until recently did they do the whole trilogy, but with Mass Effect 1, they were like, well, it's not going to be for the PS3, so when PS3 users play Mass Effect 2, they're not going to know anything about, you know, Mass Effect 1. So how are we going to do that? So they made this interactive comic that you would see on your PS3, on your Xbox, whatever. It was narrated, I believe, by Shepard. It was cool. I mean, it was like an interactive comic, like an animated comic. It had like questions, and they put it in a way that was incorporated in the narration. Like, did you romance Caden or Ashley? Who did you leave behind on Vermeer? That kind of stuff. Like the biggest decisions, so that you could choose, and that could apply to Mass Effect 2. That's pretty much the idea here. That Genesis comic is pretty much what is the Dragon Age Keep is going to be, except it's going to be a lot bigger, and it's going to be online. They did say that they wanted to make it more than just like a questionnaire. You know, people could just say, well, how come I can't just import my save? The reason why is because of the cross-platforming, especially with the new generation coming. If you played Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, like say me, if I played Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 on the Xbox 360, and then I get a PS4, and I'm like, I want to play Dragon Age Inquisition on the PS4, how am I gonna import my saves if that was on the Xbox 360? That's why they're doing it this way, because they tried to find a way to do it, but they couldn't. So this was the best way, and I think this is a brilliant way of doing it. So technically, you don't have to play Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age 2, but but I strongly recommend you do, because one thing is being told all these decisions and being like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll choose this. This sounds good. You're really not going to have that much background in it. I mean, I think it's going to be limited when it comes to the background. I don't think they're going to be able to explain everything like with detail so that people that haven't played those games will actually understand the depth of these things. So I think it's still better for you to play Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 before you play Dragon Age Inquisition, not only because they're great games, even Dragon Age 2, yes. And plus, Dragon Age 2 is the most important for Dragon Age Inquisition because of the story. It leads directly to it. You really are going to be missing out if you don't play those two games and you just do the Dragon Age Keep. I mean, you will be able to pretend like you did play it because you're going to have pre-made decisions already, and you're going to be able to kind of form your own world for Dragon Age Inquisition if you don't want the default, which defaults usually suck. You're really going to be missing out on the depth. Dragon Age just has so much depth to it. The characters, the storylines, the themes, the way that you feel about something. There's so much baggage there that I really don't. I can't say. People have asked me, do you think I really have to play Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, or should I just do the Dragon Age Keep? I always tell them, play the games. Oh, play the games. It's awesome that they're doing the Dragon Age Keep so that you could go ahead and transfer that over, but you can't transfer your experience. You can't transfer your knowledge. You can't transfer the way that you understood that baggage. You can't transfer that through the Dragon Age Keep. It's just so much. They can't tell you how to feel about something. So I strongly believe that you guys should play Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 if you're serious about playing Dragon Age Inquisition. You will be able to visit your companions in an area kind of like the party camp in Dragon Age Origins, and they are looking into being able to do more than just talk. Like, for example, the hug mod. Oh my god. As simple as that was, it made everything so much better. I remember seeing that mod for Dragon Age Origins, the hug, and I seriously wanted to start crying, because for a human noble, you were talking to your parents, to your dad and your mom. When you're saying like goodnight to them before you go to bed and before the big thing afterwards, you could give your father a hug. And I was like, oh my god. Like, as simple as that is, how amazing is that? Like, how personal does that, just having options to do things that you would do in real life, or that you're thinking to yourself, oh, I wish I could give him a hug right now, and just having that option. Oh, that's so cool. I'm really glad that they're looking into that. The hug has to be in there. I hope they have it so that you could go to Varric in your camp or your keep or whatever and be like, dude, I challenge you to drinking ale to see who's better at it or something like that. You know, like being able to do little things like that, or play a card game or dice or something with one of your followers. Just like little details like that, instead of just talking. Like, that's what I hope that's what they have in mind, because they said it's going to be more than just talking. Because in Dragon Age, they just made it so that, I mean, Dragon Age Origins, my god, the flower scene with Alistair. Oh my god. That whole, like, have you licked the lamppost in the winter? The conversations that you have with Oghren when he's super drunk. The little scenes that you see where your companions are interacting with your dog. And it's like, oh, he bit me or whatever. It's, those little things are just gold. Those little things are what make Dragon Age so special to me. The effort in the details. The effort in the little in those little things, actually forming those relationships. I mean, just walking in the forest and the banter. The banter, it's like that's what makes Dragon Age stand out to me. It stands out even past Mass Effect. As much as I grew to love the characters in Mass Effect, they never got to that level of interaction with the Dragon Age. Like the Dragon Age characters. I mean, not only do you interact with the Dragon Age characters, your party members interact with each other as friends, or as like Morgan and Alistair. They can't stand each other. The relationship between Morgan and Sten, it's all just so good. So them saying that they're adding more option to that already, it's so exciting to me. I mean, it's such a small piece of news, but it's like, oh my god. And while we're on that topic, another piece of news, small, but so exciting to me, is that they said there will be interactive banter. How awesome does that sound? I mean, Dragon Age banter is just the cream of the crop. You get some of the best lines in the banter, sometimes even more than the whole game. Interactive banter? You could name your crafted items, and when it comes to the romances, they're obviously not saying anything about the romances right now. Someone asked a question regarding like same-sex relationships or something like that. They did say that they're not answering that, but they did say that they do feel that everyone should be considered. I'm pretty sure they're going to have same-sex relationships in Dragon Age Inquisition. So that's pretty much it for this panel, the Making Your Mark panel. But you guys, this panel had the best ending ever. It was so funny. You guys should go at least listen to the ending of the Making Your Mark panel because it was so good. I laughed so hard. I was like, oh my god, that was brilliant. So that turned out to be a lot longer than I thought. But I don't have too much to talk about the behind the scenes. This is the behind the scenes of the PAX demo. They talked about the voices that you hear in the demo. That's most likely going to be the same voice actors they're going to be sticking to. The goal of the demo was more to show the intent and not the specifics. They said that it was very important to them to show that demo to the press, because some of the, like Game Informer and all this had seen it beforehand. But they said that they were more excited and it was more important to them for the fans to see it. They want the input of the fans, the people that really know Dragon Age inside and out. I mean, since it's going so different, they really want to know feedback. They really want to know what we think of it. All that hard work that they put into it, they see that it's being received so well. And it's awesome to know that. I mean, for it to be a demo and it's pre-alpha, that was amazing. That looked so good. I can imagine just how much effort and how much sweat and tears they put into that. And then that's why they made a panel specifically for that, so that to let people know just how hard they're working on this and how they really want to know our thoughts, our feedbacks and all that. And if we're excited about it, they want everyone at BioWare to know that. They want everyone to see that so that it could reinforce their drive to keep working hard on that game. They were also saying that you could interact with objects without needing a prompt. The Frostbite 3 engine does allow for destruction. You can't like burn everything to a cinder, but you won't need prompts. There are going to be those great interactions between characters, tensions between characters. They are going to be implementing the whole interrupt system, but it's going to be a little bit different. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it is its own Dragon Age style of interrupt. When in a conversation, you could choose to just walk away while they're talking. Oh, there was this one dragon. Oh my god. It almost ate my head off. You know what, guys? Let's just go. Let's just go. And where are you going? Oh my god. He just walked away. There's a more accessible codex this time around. The PC version, someone asked me this the other day. The PC version can support a controller or gamepad, but the UI will be built for mouse and keyboard. They're looking into smartphone and tablet interaction, which doesn't surprise me. So someone asked whether you were gonna be able to have an animal follower. And they said that they're not talking about animal followers. They did say that you get a mount, not a horse. They didn't say you get a horse. They said a mount. Oh, I remember them saying something like this too, like that they kind of were implying that you were going to be able to ride something other than just a horse. And then they have that concept art of somebody jumping off a cliff. I thought it was the Inquisitor. I don't know if it is, but it could be someone else. Of somebody jumping off a cliff and going to land on a dragon, a flying dragon. Imagine if you could ride a dragon. Oh my god. I feel like I'm going to be weeping the whole time I'm going to be playing this game. Like, I'm going to be like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. And don't even get me started if they're going to introduce griffins. Don't, oh my god, don't get me started. That right there, just griffins, game of the freaking year. They were joking about like having a dwarf ride on the shoulders of a kunari. I thought that was funny. It's like, that's your mount. That would be so cool though if you were a dwarf. If you're like with the iron bowl, you're just like, come here. The junk tab got renamed to valuables. You can sell, but you can also do other things with them. They're still exploring that, but they are going to change it from the way it was in Dragon Age 2, where it was just like junk, and you just get junk, and you really couldn't do anything with it, and you're just like, why the hell did I even get this stuff? Like, I mean, okay, some of the stuff might have like a little story to it, but it's like, it's pointless. I think they're probably going to implement it maybe in the crafting system. So at least it has a purpose now. And again, they did say that there are less loading screens, especially if you're in one area. If you go from one large area to another large area, then there are going to be load screens. Depending on the platform is how long that load screen is going to be, I think. So that's pretty much it for Making Your Mark and the behind the scenes of the demo. So if you guys still want to go back and listen to them, they are on Nerd Appropriate. I have the links in the description. There is one more video for the PAX Prime information, so stick around for that one. I will do my best to get it out soon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you guys later.